Welcome to the Breeders Brew, the dog breeding podcast hosted by myself, Sarah, the Canine Family Planner,
and me, Isabel, the Canine Nutrition Coach.
We're promoting responsible breeding by unpicking the minefield of breeding myths and methods for owners wishing to expand their whelping wisdom.
Linus, wake up! I'm going to throw a party. Everyone should dress up. And at midnight, I want someone to sing that New Year's song that people always sing.
Auld Lang Syne?
That's the one. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Happy New Year!
Should old acquaintance be forgot and never brought to mind? Should old acquaintance be forgot and days of Auld Lang Syne? For Auld Lang Syne, my dear, for old.
Hello everybody, thanks for joining me. It's Sarah and it's New Year's Day. I hope you enjoyed the little bit of an intro there, which was taken from a cartoon, Charlie Brown. Hopefully I won't get copyrighted or told off for this, but it was just a nice little introduction into New Year's Eve and how many people spend their celebrations to bringing in the new year. Auld Lang Syne, that's saying, is a Scottish tradition and it's part of their Hogmanay, which is like a New Year's Eve celebration. And I tell you that because Isabel isn't with me. She's actually in Scotland celebrating in a very traditional Scottish manner, no doubt. Maybe even catching and eating some haggis. Anyone that knows the in-joke there. But yeah, it's a song pretty much that's sung about old times, shared journeys, and moving forward with intention rather than regret. And I thought it's quite fitting for today because it's about pausing, taking stock, which I think we've done quite a lot over these 12 days of Christmas. But it's just thinking about what can we carry forward with us and what do we silently leave behind. And pretty much the lyrics of the song sort of says that. Which I should know because obviously I was singing it last night. No, I wasn't. I was watching Ricky Gervais on Netflix, being as savage as he's always savage. But it pretty much says, should old acquaintance be forgot and never be brought to mind? So you're aware of people that exist and you don't need to bring them forward with you into the new year. So Isabel and I thought, let's walk through individually what are some of the biggest lessons that we each learnt for 2025. So for me, the big lesson was about suitability matters more than convenience, and that boundaries are not about pushing people away, but it's about choosing what fits. I say that because I think sometimes there's quite a pressure in dog breeding and pretty much honestly in life is to keep doing what you already know. I think if someone tries to change for the new year, and it's the typical, isn't it? New year, new me, and whatever it might be, losing weight, dry January, detox December, whatever, whenever it happens, whatever it is, actually sometimes the people around that person trying to change become quite uncomfortable, and sometimes they can be quite negative and quite toxic to you trying to change because you're making them feel uncomfortable by changing, because by natures of being human, we quite like comfort and we quite like the status quo and we quite like predictability. So then obviously when someone positively tries to enforce a change, you kind of turn it upside down. Stranger Things reference there for anyone that watched that as well, that dropped on very late in the UK. I've not watched it yet, but I'm on the train. But yeah, so it's easy to keep going with what you already know because obviously it doesn't take any extra mental capacity just to stick to doing what you always do, which is pretty much what we say about the Breeders Brew podcast, of trying to learn something new, trying to actually be practical and try something new, which is easier said than done sometimes. But, you know, you might keep to your existing setup, you know that you've got the experience, you know what other people expect from you, and on paper it all works. When something works well enough, it can almost feel irresponsible not to question it. So I guess that's what New Year's resolutions and like this time on New Year's Day that a lot of people get to stop and question what they're currently doing and should they carry on doing that into the new year. We can tell ourselves things like, it would be silly not to, I've already invested so much, or people rely on me for this, or it's easier to continue than to change. And then that's how, unfortunately, convenience slowly becomes the decision maker of how you spend your next year, your next breeding, your next weekend, your next month, whatever it might be. And it's not wrong, I guess, because of the reasons I said, it just is what feels comfortable. And obviously some people can take what's comfortable means is what's right. But sometimes you have to question the suitability, and that's totally different question when you think about it. So if you ask yourself, suitability wise, does it align with who you are now? Does it suit your energy levels, your values, your future plans? Does it allow you to consistently work at your best, not occasionally? I think the thing with suitability is that it's not like really glaringly obvious. It's just a sort of quiet whisper, a bit of like a nagging presence in your brain, or sometimes it's just a flash of this doesn't seem right, but you carry on doing it anyway. What it can do is it can show up as friction. So as a sense of being stretched in a way that doesn't feel productive, so you feel like you're wasting your time doing stuff, or that it's a background drain rather than a crisis. So it's just like slowly sucking your energy. And like that stuff, it can be easy to ignore, but you shouldn't ignore it. So one of the clearest examples I've seen of this, and then I'll come on to mine because it forced one of my lessons, is that a client that I work with that I see face to face quite regularly, she's a licensed breeder. Actually, she's an ABA, Annual Breeder Awards winner, and over time she's moved breed. So originally when I first met her, she was breeding Labradors, then she decided to move into Cockapoos and Cavapoos. Now, to me, this shows somebody that's constantly looking and assessing what she's doing and checking it for suitability. And so she'd already shown flexibility. She'd already moved from one breed to another because the smaller dog suited her lifestyle more, was more suitable for her setup, and her priorities had changed with family. So I thought, well, that's good that she's recognised that and she's adapted and pivoted. Friends reference for anyone that's old pivot. Anyway, I'm not even that into Friends. I don't know why I said that. But she had already pivoted, I guess, once, and then she's constantly reviewing. And I think that's not always something that we all do as people that are known as dog owners. So because she's a licensed breeder, her focus obviously is being able to consistently produce X amount of puppies because she has the wait list waiting for her pups. And she found that she has, the fertility is important, as well as the planning to make sure you build your wait list for the puppies to be available. And what she's realised dealing with Cavapoos is their fertility isn't as reliable as for, say, the Labradors that she's previously had, which they are, a pretty robust breed. What she's also realised is the litter sizes are smaller in Cavapoos. So it has become apparent to her that she probably should focus a bit more on Cockapoos. They're a slightly bigger dog. Demand is still just as big. They're more reliable in their fertility, generally produce slightly bigger litter numbers because they are slightly bigger dog. So when you think about it, for what her plans are, where she's heading for, it makes sense for her to focus on Cockapoos rather than Cavapoos. It's just interesting to see somebody, obviously she breeds responsibly, they're all health tested, she's got the wait list and all that kind of stuff, but it just goes to show that, I don't know, if Cavapoos are a big trend, it still doesn't make sense for her to breed those when, for all the reasons that she's identified, she probably should be breeding Cockapoos. So it was just interesting to see somebody work through that process and sort of come out the other end going, oh, I know I've tried this for the last, say, 3 years, and what I've learnt is that this work, I'm more successful and I get more enjoyment from doing it this way, and so I'm going to focus on that section going forward. So I thought that was interesting because I hadn't realised it, but I had the same kind of feeling with my Labradors. So for anyone that doesn't know, I've bred my Bulldogs since I was like 13 years old. Since I was, I think I was 16, 17 with her first litter, but I've shown them since I was 13 years old. I've lived with them since I was 6 years old. So I am a Bulldog person through and through, and I love them. I had other breeds with the Bulldogs, mainly being French Bulldogs, so they're a cousin, not too far apart, you know, in some personality traits, but very far apart in others, because they are, French Bulldogs are much more terrier. I mean, that's why they've got the stick-up ears, because they've been crossed with terriers, got much more terrier temperament, so you're not getting a mini Bulldog, you are getting a French Bulldog with a different temperament. Anyway, bred those. I did have 3 generations at one point, and then I decided, you know what, French Bulldogs aren't for me. Lucky enough, it was before it all popped off with their numbers and it went a bit crazy. I think when I got my first French Bulldog, there was actually only 950 born that year, under 1,000 French Bulldogs born in the UK that year. Now they're like the second top in the UK, which I think is like some crazy numbers. Off the top of my head, I don't know, say 20, 28, 30,000, and that's what's registered, so it's probably more like 60,000. But anyway, had French Bulldogs, they all passed. Had my little Honey that probably about 4 years ago, she probably died. She was the granddaughter of the generations that I had. And then that's when I decided I want another breed, but I'm going to get a Labrador this time. I'm going to get a dog that actually listens to me, wants to make me happy, wants to learn stuff, because Bulldogs are none of that. They live their own life. So yeah, Bulldogs, I always say, like little mini people round into a dog's body. So they're like moody and stubborn and temperamental. Obviously, a Labrador is pretty robust in their demeanour and willingness, and they want to. They're very doggy, basically. Like, you throw a ball, they run after it. They want to make you happy. Their default is happy. Like, they're a great dog, without a doubt. And to be fair, having Spice has taught me a lot about Bulldogs, because I didn't realise how weird they were, because I'd always had Bulldogs. And as I say, the French Bulldogs aren't that far apart. So having a Labrador, even I've talked previously about, like, I have an email sequence for anyone that inquires about a Bulldog. I literally have this email what I call like Bulldog versus Labrador, and I point out all the things that are different between them, because if you understand those differences, then you'll know whether you actually want a Bulldog or not. So she's taught me loads, absolutely love her to bits. She's had her 3rd and final litter, and the first litter I enjoyed because it was new to me and I hadn't reared Labradors before, and they are super easy to breed in the scheme of things, especially fertility side, getting them to 4 weeks to wean in. They're a little bit more hard work 4 to 8 weeks, because they are so switched on and they're so intelligent, and with the bigger litters there's a lot more puppies to entertain, shall we say. So I really enjoyed the first litter. The second litter I did enjoy, and obviously I put into place the things that I did wrong on the first one. I was like, let's improve this. And the final litter, I haven't enjoyed at all. I've had winter litters before, so it's not the fact that it's a winter litter and they're cooped up indoors a bit more. But I just don't enjoy. I think what I realise is when there's a large gene pool of Labradors and I'm just adding to it, where with the Bulldogs it's a smaller gene pool of dogs, but because I've achieved so much more to them, I know the quality I'm adding is top tier quality. Where the Labradors, obviously they're fully health tested and everything, but like I have no bigger reputation behind that. So I don't know, I just feel like deep down inside I'm just breeding a dog for the sake of breeding a dog, where I know when I'm breeding my Bulldogs, I know somebody can spend £3,000 on a Bulldog one day and then be at the vets the next day spending another £3,000. So I know I'm really confident in the ability of what my dogs are, and finding puppy owners that appreciate that. So then it feels worthwhile for me, feels worthwhile for them. And like Bulldogs are really hard to breed, in my opinion. You'd have to be crazy to kind of pick them by choice, which is kind of why I wanted to breed a Labrador, to see the differences. The Labradors, from my opinion, obviously is a saturated arena because they are like one of the most popular dogs. And so therefore the people looking for them, in my opinion, devalue the quality of the puppy that they're receiving. They don't necessarily appreciate it. Not saying that's like true, but that's my opinion and experience of it. So as I say, when I breed my Bulldogs, it's totally different because I know their heritage, I know they're fully health tested, I know they've got amazing structure, temperament, like they literally come with my backing, my guarantee. My intention of the breeding is totally different to the Labradors. I've got decades of knowledge, I judge them, show them, do all the things with them. So I don't know, my passion level is just definitely different. And I didn't expect it to be the same with the Labradors. But on reflection, I don't get any of the excitement that I get from my Bulldog puppies, even though they're easier to breed. It's just not as fun. So I've decided that I'm going to breed no more Labradors. And I'm going to take the harder route and carry on breeding my Bulldogs. A conscious, active decision. And I think that's because when I breed my Bulldogs, that the puppy owners come on the journey with me. So they're engaged from a very early point, like if not 12, 18 months, 2 years before they even get a dog off of me, which I weirdly absolutely love compared to placing a Labrador advert at 6 weeks old and someone viewing and then picking them up 2 weeks later and never hearing from them ever again. I like that with my Bulldog people, they're on the journey with me. They experiences all the ups, all the downs, and there's tons of downs with Bulldogs. They understand the uncertainty. They see the care that goes into it, the planning, the responsibility involved in breeding dogs properly. And then because of that, I truly feel that they do value their puppy differently once they receive it. It's not a product. It's like a whole experience that they've been on with me to get to this end point where they actually get their puppy. And I know that some people will be like, oh, I don't want to put up with puppy owners like constantly having to engage them for that long. But for some weird reason, I actually quite like it with my Bulldogs. And so I'm going to continue doing that because that's what I enjoy. I think I enjoy the sense of satisfaction of them appreciating the quality of dog they get when we get to the end of it. So yeah, I'm not taking the easy route anymore. So there will be no Labrador litters on the agenda. And I think it's knowing when you've taken enough from something as well. I kept a female from Spicy's first litter that's in the Guardian that I could potentially breed from. And it's an opportunity I'm probably not going to take because I don't really want to, and I don't think it betters anything that I'm doing as an individual. So I'm not going to do it anymore. I'm going to do what suits me. So yeah, I think that's a big lesson. I think the reason that maybe some people struggle with these decisions is guilt, like of letting people down or changing direction or just stepping away from something others would be grateful to have. And say likewise, I already have one female in a Guardian, so there have to be a conversation with their owners about what my plans are. So it probably will be uncomfortable and a little bit awkward. And let's hope they don't listen to this podcast before I have those conversations. But obviously we'll act in everyone's best interest. But you shouldn't feel guilty about making a decision that's the right decision for you. So you're not obliged to continue with something simply because it once made sense. And I think you've just got to see that you just setting some boundaries isn't about rejection, it's about clarity, isn't it? It's like if you go to a shoe shop, if you go to JD Sports, you're after trainers. If you go to Clark's, you're after school shoes or sensible shoes. But you've got to go in the right shop in the first place. And then even when you're in the right shop, you still try on different pairs, don't you? And some fit better than others. And just because you don't take a pair, like it's just that you don't need them at this time, isn't it? They're just not right for you at that moment or for the reason that you needed those shoes. So I think you've got to kind of see it like that. You get to pick, you get to decide because you've got to walk in those shoes. Labradors. See, 2 Labradors getting noisy now. So the one thing I've learned this year is that when you change direction, you also change who you need around you. And it's not necessarily more people, but it's about having the right people. We talked about, marathon running and having athletes having coaches and, this is why tutors exist, isn't it, for academia and all these kind of things and music, and there's always somebody willing to teach the next person. And it's because generally you need people around you that understand suitability, those that respect boundaries, and people that think rather than react. And again, this is why we put the Brew Crew Support Club together. So it's just a space for people to talk through what they're going through to other people that are going through the same thing and totally understand and get it. And also, you've got to remember, guys, that it is a 2-for-1. Unlike this podcast, where it's just me today, you do get two people's different opinions and perspectives. So Isabel and I, though we agree on a lot of things, we still are brought up different ways, have different backgrounds, have different focuses. So we still bring different perspectives to it. And so it's good because I think we bring a more holistic approach to the advice that we're given, because we're just not blindsided by one person's opinion. You get both. So I think, yeah, like what could you ask for? So don't forget, don't miss the opportunity. Let's start on the right foot. You've got your discount code for Breeders Brew, which is BIRDS246. It runs out on the 12th day. So don't dilly-dally, as they say. So taking it back to Auld Lang Syne, it does not say old choices were mistakes. It simply acknowledges passing time and that people change. And as you step into a new year, that you give yourself permission to reassess. So this is the time that you should start doing that. So I'm going to play a little bit of on the outro. And you won't hear from me tomorrow, I don't believe. I think it'd be over to Isabel, or it might be a joint one. We might stick a joint one in, and then you'll get Isabel the day after. Let's see. But otherwise, have a super new year, and I'll catch up with you soon. Bye.